Hello, it's me again for your weekly Dental Bytes. I'm Mark Wagner, the host. I love being in this room. I love it. I'm so fortunate to talk to everybody that I get to talk to. It's kind of like I get to cheat and learn from all these great people doing great things in the industry. My next guest coming on here is no exception to that. She is a brain when it comes to getting you from stopping managing your practice to start being a leader in your practice. She's going to kind of go through that and talk to us about how to wrap your brain around that. Without further ado, let's just bring her in so that I'm just not rambling to myself. Stephanie, how are you doing today? Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me, Mark. I'm doing well. How are you?
Well, it's Friday, so it's always good. It's been crazy. How about you? Like, it seems this year seems to be just kind of flying by. Like, how's the year going for you?
Yeah, like I feel like I've blinked and all of a sudden it's May. Like, how did that even happen? I'm not sure,
I don't.
but in a total good way.
In a good way, yeah. I just think
In a
that's
good way.
kind of like when you dig in, and then when you bring your head up for air. Sometimes it's like, wow, just like slow down a little bit. But you had a little cancellation this morning. You've been cruising around. People are bringing you in for sessions. How's that going? How's being in front of a group of people and chatting about what you do? How much do you enjoy that?
Yeah, it's funny because it's something that speaking in front of groups of people and presenting topics in front of other people in the industry. I thought that I would maybe not excel at it, but I've thoroughly enjoyed it to my surprise. And I'm glad that I've been able to lean into it because it's provided me with something that I didn't know would be such an amazing thing to do and an amazing way to spend my time to create content and present it to groups of people. And then much like yourself, I get to learn from other people in the industry by starting those conversations and being in front of other groups of people and getting to learn things along the way, which is really cool.
Stephanie, where did this passion come from? You started as an assistant. Where did what was the inspiration to start doing this dental director academy? Like, when did that all kind of come? Like, when did the light bulb come off?
Well, so I actually started as a receptionist and
Oh,
then became a RDA and then became an office manager. And I can't, maybe there's been a few moments along the way, but I think it's actually been like a layered effect of my entire career in the industry. First of all, having a really influential leader as my boss for many, many years who never held back knowledge um, or CE or held me back in any ways. She always elevated me in my role and always was so gracious with sharing information with me. And then when I started to sort of dip my toes into consulting to see if I could replicate, a process that I completed at her practice, I realized that, hey, I actually have a knack for this. I can do this. But there was actually this moment where I realized I was having bigger impact on the practices that had leaders in their practice that I could teach. I could teach business to, I could teach about leadership, I could teach about metrics, that those practices that had leaders or people that they were willing to elevate as leaders in their practice and as office managers, director of operations, whatever you want to call them. I realized that those practices that I was working with as a consultant, I was having far bigger impact. And throughout my journey as a office manager, I had to travel to get good education. There was nothing right here in Canada, nothing, especially nothing in Alberta that I had access to. I traveled to the States all the time to get good education and realized that I wanted to be a part of delivering that to people within my local community.
that's awesome. Um, you touched on it there. Like, what is the difference in between somebody that is managing their practice versus somebody that is leading the practice, and why? What are the things that make that so much easier to drive forward?
So it's funny when I was an office manager. I had this running joke that people would meet me for the first time, and you always go through that conversation like, "What do you do for a living? What do you do for a living?" And I would always repeat and say, "I am a firefighter." And then people would be like, "Oh, you're like awfully short to be a firefighter. Like I'm 5 feet."
Yeah.
And then I would like laugh and be like, "Just kidding. I'm an office manager." But that's like what it's like is you just put out fires all day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so like there was always this like running joke about me putting out fires all day. I come to work, put on my firefighter hat and like put out fires and work very reactively all day. And when I sort of had a shift in my mindset around like putting aside the reactive stuff and working on proactive things, that was more of like a director of operations. And luckily enough for me, the dentist that I was talking about earlier, who really elevated me in my role, we had an office manager at that practice at one point, and she was called an office manager. And when the doctor had asked me to become her office manager, she was very specific in really what she was looking for. And that was a director of operations. And we agreed that that was the best name for what I would be doing in the practice, because we didn't want it to be associated with being an office manager in the traditional sense. It's really more about leadership and about metrics and about goals and understanding business than it is managing people and managing things.
Right. You mentioned metrics. Like, how important is data, like in informing what's happening? And what would you say to the folks that are kind of like flying the plane without looking at the gizmos in front of them? Like, how important is it?
Oh my gosh, it is so important. And you said it exactly specifically the way I communicate. Is like, would you ever get into a plane with a pilot who's not looking at all of the metrics that are happening? Would you ever get into your car and try to go on a long distance journey and not look at your gas gauge? Like, it is so important, and so important not only to just track metrics. I think there's a time and a place for tracking monthly metrics, and they're extremely valuable, but also tracking metrics in real time, like tracking metrics weekly so you understand exactly where you're going and when you're going there, for both the reasons of like, hey, do we need to shift gears? Things maybe aren't going as planned. Maybe they're falling off the rails and like something's not going right and we need to fix it in real time. Or maybe things are going really well and you need to reverse engineer it and figure out like, how are we doing this? We just had our best week ever.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Like you don't want to wait till the end of the month to realize that you had your best week ever. Let's replicate it next week.
Yeah.
So metrics are extremely important.
What would you say to the folks that are, there's some of those types out there that they're just not analytical people. Where do they even begin? They don't want to jump onto dashboards or whatnot. How could you help somebody like that?
Well, I have all sorts of fun spreadsheets that I can share, but, generally speaking, I would say anybody in the role of director of operations or anybody in the role of business ownership is has a fairly A-type personality and likes to look at those things. So I can't say I've encountered yet a practice that doesn't like to look at the metrics or input the data. Finding the time to input the data can be challenging, but that's one of those key things that you have to do to switch from reactive to proactive. Because to get something you've never had, you must do something you've never done. And if you've never tracked metrics, then you should try tracking it to see if you get a different result. Because just from looking at the metrics, you're going to get better results just from tracking it. not even putting any intentional effort, you will start to see an improvement in your numbers.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like it informs your direction. I don't know. I just I'm the type that will, even if I'm driving home from Vancouver, I'll even put my address in so that I get the best route. Like we have these tools now. It's awesome, right? So when you're first like starting up with a clinic, where do you begin? Like what's your first few steps?
Oh, that's a really good question. And I think it really depends on what the practice is really wanting. With the Dental Director Academy, we have tons of options. So they can start with just a membership option and have access to some fundamental tools like a KPI tracker. And newsletters and some resources of people that I work with in the industry who are exceptional at what they do and preferred pricing around their products. Or they can sign on just for the course, and their director of operations can level up in what they're doing through a PACE certified program. Or they can sign on for the growth management coaching. And when we start with that, and it's you get access to both the membership and the course, along with specific tailored coaching for your practice. We would start with a practice analysis, a practice wellness assessment, essentially, is what it is.
Cool. What does that consist of? That's cool.
It's a form that you would fill out about your practice and about the things in your practice, the things that you're doing, the things you're not, the things you're seeing value in, finding out if you have a vision for your practice, sharing those details, because when you have a vision or a mission statement or both, core values too, it provides a roadmap for me as your coach to understand where you want to go and to be able to help educate the director of operations in your practice based specifically on what you want for your future.
Right.
So we find out those details and then we create a plan around it.
Love it. Love it. What about the folks that don't have that type of role in their practice? Where would they begin?
They would begin by finding somebody for that role, whether that we explore,
Step one, right? Yeah.
We explore internally, if there's anybody internally that would be a fit. And if nobody internally is a fit, then I assist with recruiting for director of operations.
Now, this is sort of, we met in Rimby at Dr. Nordstrom's practice. It sounds like he went on this direction, like he had brought somebody in under your direction.
Yeah, so we were seeing some really good results in his practice. And I just, as his coach, I felt a little stuck with what was next to help grow. And I was a little bit nervous actually to chat with him about, like, I really think that you need an office manager, because I knew that he really enjoyed the business side of the practice. And but I knew that we were going to be stuck without it. So I chatted with him about it, and he was like, well, who? And I was like, you have this perfectly amazing person right on your team who I know is going to just blow it out of the water. And she did, really. Yeah. She did. And he said that hiring a director of operations was the best thing that he did for his practice. It allowed him to focus more on dentistry when he was in the practice, like really focusing on his patients and the dentistry and the treatment planning, and leaving all of the nitty gritty things and a lot of it he didn't enjoy, I found out, like hiring and firing and creating protocols, and doing research on technology, leaving all those little nuances to somebody else who is really, really capable.
That is kind of like the yin and yang of the practice, isn't it? It is like the business center and then the clinical center. Like when I'm kind of thinking about all the practices that I know that are super successful, there is usually somebody that is fully responsible for the business aspect, leaving the clinicians to like do their thing chairside. That's kind of how it should run, shouldn't it?
Yeah, and we talk a lot about team leads, clinical leads, hygiene team leads, like leads in the departments. And I always say, like, let's rebrand them to directors as well. Have a clinical director, assisting director, a hygiene director, a business director for your reception team. You can elevate them in the same way that you would elevate your office manager into a director of operations to really help with the flow in each specific department.
What makes a good leader, like on any front? Like what three things should they, like, their makeup consist of?
That is such a good question. I think the thing that stands out most is somebody who is willing to grow, somebody who sees the value in learning and growth, because it's a position where you continually have to learn and grow and never stay stagnant in your role. Another key attribute would be somebody who's like always takes the reins, who's like, oh, like I can do that. Oh, you need this done. Let me help. That kind of stands out as somebody who is just willing to take ownership of projects is generally a really good candidate. And somebody who's interested in the metrics, somebody who likes numbers and is driven by numbers is generally another good attribute for that role.
Somebody that says, like you said before, cool spreadsheets. Like if they say that, that's probably a good indicator.
Cool, yeah, cool spreadsheet. Oh my gosh, I love a spreadsheet.
You know what? I'm a nerd too. I like that. I love it too. But it's just it's funny, like fun and spreadsheet. And this, like, yeah, if you get it, you get it, right?
Totally.
How important are systems as well?
Systems are incredibly important. To be able to run a really good practice, I think having good team members on board is like so important, but equally having systems in place that they understand, like these are the things that I have to do to be successful. Oftentimes we leave it to them to try to figure it out, and then we're disappointed as leaders or practice owners. We're disappointed with the outcome, but it's because we didn't actually provide them with the strategy around what the expectation was and potentially how to get there. So that's what systems really do, is it creates a roadmap for the people on the team to be able to succeed.
Right. How open should we be to like changing the systems as well, like evolving, things change? Does that ever throw a wrench in things when something's working, but there needs to be some sort of change? Like how should that go into like developing systems?
Yeah. Anytime you change something in a dental office, it throws a huge monkey wrench into things. People inherently don't like change because it feels uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right. When you're going along and things are like, okay, this is working. I'm comfortable with it. It's not taking a lot of mental energy. It's comfort. When we change things up and they have to now expel more mental energy, they have to learn something new, change the way they're doing things so it doesn't come as like second nature to them, it can for sure feel uncomfortable. But generally speaking, that's where all the magic happens. And while if you have a good team in place and a strong leader who can communicate well with their team that this place is never going to be stagnant, we're always going to be growing, we want to stay relevant in the industry, so we're attracting people maybe with that similar mindset, and then a good leader goes through that change with them rather than just directing like this is what you have to do. They're in the trenches with them, generally makes it a lot easier for teams. And when you're continually doing it, all of a sudden like changing one little system doesn't become that hard because it's the way you do things.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense to me. Okay, so how does DDA differentiate itself from all the other, dental management training programs out there? Like what's this? I won't ask you what the secret sauce is, but what's the secret sauce? How does it? what makes it special?
First of all, there's not a ton on the market for dental management training specific for dental office managers to educate them around business systems, leadership, like all of those things are kind of the secret sauce to success in the role. And I think that DDA is different because we're Canadian based. You can do everything online. I am going to be putting together live events in the very near future. But if you don't want to come to those live events and you just want to learn online, that's available to you. And I'm of a growth mindset. So I don't get comfortable. I live in the uncomfortable area. So I'm constantly learning and educating myself. And like I created this is a great example. I created a module around performance evaluations. And I had documents around performance evaluations. And then I took some courses and I learned some better ways around how to perform performance evaluations. And I changed it. It was all done. I could have just left it there. But I was like, no, there's a better way. And I wish that I knew this when I was managing practices. So I'm going to give this to the members of DDA because it is better. So I think what really differentiates us is that I will never be stagnant. I will always continue to do better and provide better things for the members. Even if it's already done, I'll redo it so that they have access to it.
And I love that because how many folks are you dealing with right now? Like, you must learn things every day. Like I could just see you being in a situation going, oh, this I want to implement this. This is a cool thing.
Yes.
Yeah. I can totally see that. And man, like things are changing so fast with all these different softwares and management systems and AI too. We could dive into that. How have you seen AI kind of change the game on from your perspective?
I think that I see a lot of practices utilizing AI for their diagnostic and treatment planning tools. And I don't have an opinion on it either way because I'm not a doctor and it'd be unfair for me to have an opinion. But what I think is really cool about it is streamlining the process of diagnosis and what that treatment plan is going to look like from provider to provider in that practice. So the patient would be getting a similar experience no matter who they've seen in the practice, that's something new in the industry, from my opinion.
Yeah. I was talking to Dr. Jan Jaffer and, Trek Dental, and like he's using a diagnostic software to do that, to have like sort of a consistency across all of the practices. There's 32, in the business. So that makes sense to me, right? Like, consistency in sort of any business is important, where somebody comes through the door, even if it's like a referral, somebody's going to get the same reoccurring care, right? Like that's mission critical, I think.
I agree. And the other thing in terms of AI is like an AI receptionist and the way that they're alleviating some of the burden off of the receptionists. And what I really think is clever about it is just having your receptionist not on the phone as much as they typically would be. They're still answering the phone, but just maybe like, even if it's 25% less time on the phone, they're able to give 25% more energy to the person in front of them. And we're a service-based industry. Like hospitality matters so much. And it's so often that I walk into a practice and the receptionist is on the phone and they can't pay attention to who's in front of them.
And both fronts are important. I can't speak to like both fronts enough. From a sort of, we're coming from the marketing side of things, like we're sending patients to practices, and if a patient is not sort of received in some way, whether that's a text message or email or phone call, to like establish that connection, within 5 minutes, you're 22x less likely to have that patient become a patient of record. It's like bananas. But like, you have these these teams at the front end where it's like mission critical to like for them to be patient facing. Like, how do you like? Have you seen any good AI front end reception tools out there? Like, are there good ones? I've seen a couple, but they're kind of, I don't know. I'm not too sure if it's there yet. Have you seen any that like you're like, okay, this is pretty cool?
Yeah, I there is one, and it's a Canadian-based company, and it's a receptionist, like a virtual reception. When you phone, you're talking to AI, and like I've called the demo line a few times myself,
Mhm.
and it's pretty slick. It feels like you're talking to a real person.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I've had them like it's maybe it's me. I don't know, but I can tell. And I've heard one of these demos too, and it was like sort of a recording of this demo, and at the end, the patient was like, "Can I talk to a human?" Like, you know? So I guess like if we're sort of fielding these patients coming through the door with some sort of tool, it's like a matter of time before it's perfected. It's something to keep our eyeball on, I think, too. Like, would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. I think it's worth keeping our eyes on. I don't think there's a lot of dental offices that are quite there yet that are ready for there's some for sure, but there's a lot that I talk to that aren't quite ready for an AI receptionist or aren't quite ready for AI diagnostics. But I also seen those same practices. They were not ready. They weren't quite ready for airflow in their hygiene department, and now they are fully integrated with the airflow. So I think once they see the success in other practices and they're able to understand the benefit to them, it'll probably get fully integrated quicker than we think.
Yeah, I agree. Um,
Yeah.
Here's a good one. How important is patient experience? Like, how important is it that we impart this feeling of trust and this experience? Like you said it, like we're a hospitality industry. How, like, where should somebody start in building this sort of this atmosphere, this environment for people to come in?
It starts when they answer the phone. Honestly, the way I always say to my teams, like when you answer the phone, make sure you're smiling because that's the industry we're in, and people will hear it. So, like, it starts right from answering the phone all the way through their experience. And I mean, it's so. What I always say about hospitality and service is that it is the difference between customer service and customer experience is that customer service is what we're doing. We have the best of intentions. When the receptionist answers the phone and maybe like doesn't do something right, it's not because she's ill intended. She has the best of intentions, but maybe forgot something or wasn't trained properly. But customer experience is that it can be reproduced and it's very intentional. So when we get intentional about experience, it's less scripted and it's more like driven by where like the practice's vision, their core values, their mission, and the level of training that they've received around what patient experience is and what hospitality is.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I agree. That's yeah. I think sometimes like that's forgotten out there, and that's like so critical. What what are like some common things that you're seeing that that office managers are facing, and how are you helping them address those things?
So the thing that we're talking about all the time right now is um, hiring people in the dental industry and hiring for receptionists and hiring for RDAs and hiring for hygienists. And it seems like there's a shortage of all of the above. And how do we hire quality people and not have our wages blowing our profitability out of the water? Like what is a process around it? And I think to attract the right people on the team, again, it kind of like goes back to hospitality. You have to be very intentional with the way you do it. So I have processes that I teach office managers and director of operations around how specifically to do that, a full hiring process and a few different ways to kind of get clever about how you're hiring, so that you're standing out above the rest and you're not just treading through the muddy waters with everybody else that's also hiring. But also a way that you can really shortlist those people that you're hiring for in a way that makes it easy for you, and you're not drowning in resumes and drowning in trying to like hiring through resumes. I think there's a few different methods on how you can do that. A hiring event is one really clever way.
Oh, hiring. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. And really elevating your hospitality towards the candidates through your hiring event. Like when they come in, it's so great to meet you. Would you like some water? Please have a seat. Like, just giving to them what you would expect them to do in their role.
Like expand on that. Like how does that event look? That's an interesting concept.
Yeah. So oftentimes when you post an ad, you will get many, many responses, especially when you're hiring for a receptionist. And it can be really like overwhelming. You get 100 applicants and you're like, I don't know even where to start. And basically you hire almost everybody to the hiring event. You don't keep it a secret that it's an event. First of all, you're like, I'm going to meet with you and other candidates to streamline the process. So we're doing a hiring event and we'd like to invite you. This is the time, the day and the time it's going to be. So you really expedite that process. You could meet with 50 people in a 1 hour event and narrow down your selection to the people who you want to do that 1 hour interview with or a longer working interview with through that event. So you bring them in, you educate them on everything that you expect in the position. You provide them with the job description, the checklist around what they would have to do day to day, the vision for the practice if you have one, sort of the history of the practice. And then you say to them at that time, hey, listen, if this isn't for you, now that you know all about the job, if this isn't for you, that's totally okay. Feel free to leave. Like you do not have to stay. That's what this is all about. So you get to know us, we get to know you. Mm-hmm. And I've actually had people get up at that time and leave. They're like, yeah, this is definitely not for me. This isn't what I want.
But that's good, right? Like you're not wasting time on either front. So that's good.
Yeah. And then anybody who's left after that, usually, if any, that's like one person. But after that, then you kind of do like a speed dating style interview where you and maybe anybody else on your team that you would feel comfortable helping with the hiring process would grab one candidate at a time, talk to them for like 3 to 5 minutes and get a feel for that first impression, their delivery, and if you'd like to see them back for a more formal interview or a working interview process.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I could see that being really effective. That's cool. I haven't heard.
We've had really good success with it.
Yeah, I could see that working. Yeah, that's cool. Awesome. Let's get into some stories. Now, I know of one already where you were able to come in and just change the game, and this practice is now kicking some ass, expression. But like that's, I'm sure, where you kind of put your feather in your cap, and those proud moments are awesome. I want to hear a story about some success.
Yeah, I have a few. One practice that I just recently started working with, they have a pretty busy office. She actually just recently opened up a second practice, and they're plunking away pretty good. And she was a little bit like, I don't even know really where we can grow. Obviously, we want our second office to get really busy, but like I'd like to see if we're even optimizing our original practice. So we started looking at some numbers and realized that the hygiene team was really devaluing their time. They weren't they weren't billing out appropriately for their time. And now I would never encourage anybody to overbill or bill unethically. Like, this is just valuing the time that you're spending with patients and understanding what is billable time. Oftentimes, hygienists believe that they bill for scaling when it's like tooth on scaler and that's it. But that's really not actually the case, and that's not what the college has communicated as billable time. So we realized that they were underbilling. The hygiene team all wanted to make more money, but like she couldn't pay them more money because they were underbilling. And we realized that they were leaving like $300,000 a year on the table with just underbilling, just the time that they were seeing patients. This isn't even filling more time in the schedule, adding hygiene hours. We were underbilling by $300,000.
Wow.
So we came up with a creative way around implementing a bonus structure. First of all, educating the hygiene team on exactly what billable time was, what they could bill for, making them feel empowered as licensed clinicians, that they should be valuing their time, that their time is extremely valuable. And then implementing a really cool bonus structure so that if dependent on the amount of time they billed, they could potentially earn more money. But they couldn't unethically bill. Like, that was out of the question, and we were going to be monitoring that. And everybody increased their billing by over $30 per hour on her hygiene team.
That's massive.
And everybody's making more money, including like the profit margins have increased for the practice. The practice owner now has a fully optimized hygiene team that's valuing their time. And the hygiene team is super happy because they're actually making more money. They understand how they can make more money and things that they can do for their patients to support their health and make more money at the same time.
And we can go off on this tangent too, like hygiene itself, like how much dentistry just comes out of the hygiene chair? Like how
in most practices, it's like at least 30%, 30 to 35%. Some practices are much higher, dependent on their patient volume, how many of their patients are on maintenance, and we see some upwards of 40, 45%, but most practices are sitting at least around 30% hygiene volume. So that's significant.
Yeah. What's a healthy recall number? Like what percentage of the practice is coming like standard practice twice a year? How hard is it to hit like, past 80%? Like what things could folks do to increase their recall?
I think spending time with the patients, educating the patients, all these like cliche things, but getting really, really good at it and having systems in place, calibrating your hygiene team. And I'm not even a hygienist, and I don't even do the calibration with hygiene teams. I have a hygiene coach that helps me with that.
Yeah.
But I see so much value in spending time with just the hygiene department, and allowing them to create a standard of care in their practice that everybody adheres to and agrees upon, and calibrating everybody on what billable time is and getting everybody on the same page with that. Taking an hour a month or even a couple hours a month to have your hygiene department get together and review all of those things, it generally pays for itself in dividends.
Yeah. How important is that relationship too with the patient? Like they're seeing their hygienist, twice a year. How crucial is it to have maybe a little extra time to just chat with patients?
I think it's incredible when I see dentists that give their hygiene team autonomy around how long they would like to book their patients for, based off of their individual needs and their periodontal conditions. And as long as the hygiene team isn't taking advantage of that time and not billing for it,
right,
it's a win-win for everybody, right? It's a win for the patient who gets a little extra time with their hygienist and understands what's going on with their health. And I mean, I could go off on a whole other tangent around, what the hygiene team does and the way that they educate patients is so important to your overall health, and how there's tons of systemic conditions that are linked to your oral microbiome and all of that stuff. Like, it's just so important for people's health in general.
Yeah. Like the education part is massive too. Like, and case acceptance too. And like how the patient trusts the practice. It's, the dialogue is so important. Is that like, do you develop that like in scripting? Like, are there certain steps that there should be certain boxes checked every time a patient comes through the door? Like, what's that sort of look? Is that sort of like an individual practice thing?
It is in a sense, but there's definitely some key components. And this goes back to my treatment coordinator days. And I was like super passionate about my job as a treatment coordinator and case acceptance. And then it kind of snowballed into, at one point when I was an RDA, I did all of the new patient intakes for a practice. We were really trying to grow our new patient volume and create more referrals. And I did all of the new patient intakes. And in both of those roles, I would ask a key question to my patients. And that was, what are your goals for your teeth? And what are your goals for your oral health? And oftentimes the patient would look at me like, I have never been asked that before. What a weird question.
I want to keep them.
And sometimes, yes. And that's exactly what I'd say. I'd be like, well, sometimes people tell me that they want to keep their teeth forever. Sometimes people tell me that they want to stay out of pain. Like, what's important to you?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, when you can link the patient's treatment plan to what's important to them. So since you told me your goals are to keep your teeth for a lifetime, this treatment of coming in every 3 months for a hygiene appointment is going to be imperative for you to meet that goal because of whatever your condition is. And asking questions to your patients around like what would be important to them is far more effective in case presentation than just spewing out different treatment options and coming up with like A, B, and C. Oh, you can do treatment A, you could do this, overwhelming the patient is often like the worst thing that you can do as it pertains to case acceptance. I think understanding their goals and then creating a treatment plan around their goals is a far more effective use of everybody's time. I
like it. Linking it to, seeing the radiography up on the screen or, something along those lines. I love it. So what things is DDA doing to support practices in scaling without overburdening the dentists? Like, how do we keep them, chair side and not feeling overwhelmed? What's your secret in doing that?
The secret is to really elevating a director of operations. So getting all of the little minutia, small things off of the owner's plate so that they can focus more on their patients and the things that they want to do clinically, or maybe even take a holiday here and there and not worry so much about what's going on in the office, actually decompressing and getting rid of some of that stress because they have somebody that they trust and who is really, really capable.
Yeah.
I think that is the key to what we're doing to helping practices succeed better.
And how has that been in sort of the practice owner, alleviating themselves of those hats? Has there been ever some time where you just have to pull the owner aside and go, it's okay, so-and-so's got this. You can relax. Is that hard for some people?
For sure, it's hard for some people, but generally speaking, those people that want to hold on to the control of it all, they're not willing to elevate a director of operations. So I've not yet experienced an office that's I still want to control it all, because they're not in the place yet of wanting to get there. So they're not investing.
Yeah. They're not
in
ready.
their practice that way yet. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be enlisting your services if they weren't ready for it, I suppose, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Generally, they're pretty ready.
Yeah. That's cool. Let's dive into it here. I'm going to bring the screen up and you tell me like who would suit the following. So I'll just like pop over here. Oh, wrong page. There we go. So in your experience, like where does each of these solutions work the best? Like who would benefit from a membership? Who would benefit from, the course situation? And then obviously from the consulting aspect, like in your opinion, who's suited for these things?
So we'll kind of like go with the consulting, the most robust program, and kind of work our way back.
Yeah.
The consulting is great for practices that want to grow, that want to increase their profits, that maybe they have an office manager who's like really wanting to grow, but maybe isn't like a self-starter or isn't capable of taking a course and implementing it. Like having a little extra support would be important for them. Those would be the people that the consulting package would work really well for. And like I say, the people who want to grow either their revenue or their profitability, and that's always, the profitability is always the key component that I'm looking at, because that's what matters most in your practice, is how profitable you are. Anybody who's wanting to grow their profit margins is going to be generally speaking, a good candidate for the coaching program, the consulting. The course is great for a self-starter, an office manager who maybe somebody who wants to either become an office manager, somebody who's recently become an office manager and doesn't really know, like generally speaking, it's an RDA or a receptionist who's like the strongest in their role that just gets kind of like moved into office management, or an office manager who's been doing it for a while, but maybe feels a little out of touch or feels a bit lonely. It's a very lonely job. You're the only person in the office that is doing that job. You're generally not getting CE thrown your way all the time. It's always clinic that's getting CE. So somebody who's just looking for a community and for like additional learning support would be great to take the course. And then a lot of times people who take the course would transition to the membership. Or if you just want to kind of dip your toes in and see like, hey, what's DDA all about? The membership's a great way to do that as well. See some of the resources we have in the resource library, check out the community aspect, and get in touch with people who are doing the same job as you as an office manager. It's great because, like I said, it's a bit of a lonely job. So that community aspect has been really important for everybody who's a part of the academy and for myself.
Yeah, that was my next question. The community, like how's that contributed to the development of the members?
Oh, extremely, extremely well. So I recorded the course through live sessions because I realized that I suck at just looking at a screen and talking to myself. And I decided that I was going to do it through live sessions instead, record the content and upload the courses as I went, which ended up working out better than I could have ever imagined. It was far less awkward than me just talking to a screen and trying to stay engaged and stay really excited about the content, because every single session people showed up and then they had things to contribute that helped us create really enticing discussions.
Yeah, that's cool. And again, like into an informing, growing your own program, listening to the folks on the front line and hearing sort of the day-to-day challenges. That's where that's where the crux of it is, isn't it?
That's right. Yes, 100%. That's right.
How are you? So are you tailoring these services to each practice? How do you go about doing that?
Yeah. So for anybody who signs up for the consulting component, we tailor what we're doing for your practice specifically and what your individual needs are.
Cool. And how would one get started with you? Where would they go? What would they do?
just go to the website. You can sign up right from the website. If you're not sure, you can contact me right through the website if you wanted to just get a conversation going. Shoot us an email. I just love to chat with people in the industry, to be truthful. I love what I do, and just getting to know people and their stories, and getting to just know people in the industry is really exciting for me. So even just getting a conversation going is great.
It's a great industry, isn't it? Like, there's so many passionate people doing so many cool things. My last podcast, I was talking to a doctor from Cairo, which is like, and in the conversation, there wasn't anything that wasn't like that I wouldn't experience over here in North America. It's like it's a pretty cool small community, and like everybody's, I think, really on the most part happy to collaborate and help each other out. What have you experienced?
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
How did you meet somebody from Cairo to come on your podcast?
Well, like just through the networking that this podcast does. Like, it was somebody that had been watching the show that I just asked, like, I'd love to chat with you, just like you just said there. That's why it kind of rang through my head. Like, it is so much fun. Like, it's cool. Like, everybody's, I think, in our own little places trying to provide the best solutions or services that we possibly can to fulfill sort of that little thing, our own purpose in this thing, right? Like, and it all leads to patient care in the end. Like, it's a pretty neat world we live in. So, and I think
I love that you said that, Mark, because it's funny. The first practice that I worked in, like I've talked about, the doctor was Dr. Pecan. She was just extremely, extremely kind and had purpose and vision. And she created this really robust vision for her practice. And part of that vision was to change the way people viewed going to the dentist. And so every day when I went to work, I knew exactly what my job was. Like, I had to, at the crux of it all, I had to change the way people viewed going to the dentist. And I had to do that through my leadership to my team. And then when I stepped out of her practice, that did not change for me. Like, as you just said, what we're doing at the end of it all, it affects patient care. So, like, my vision is still through my company to change the way people perceive going to the dentist in a positive way. And it's through a very unique channel that I'm doing that, but that's really why I'm here,
Honestly, that's our mantra too. It is, we're accumulating all these amazing stories from like folks like you, and like people should be, I don't know, like I'm excited to go to the dentist because I'll look at all the technology and know like, oh, and I'll like, wow, you know a lot about dentistry. Are you a dentist? Like, no, I'm not. I'm just like, then I'll explain what I'm doing. But like, we all kind of have our different roles in it, and it's so much fun. I'm flying out to see you in a little bit too, and I'm really looking forward to getting you in front of a camera and working with you too. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I can't wait. I am so excited.
Yeah. So I'm coming into Calgary, and we've got some folks there, and then into Red Deer. It's a little adventure. I love it. So much fun. Any final thoughts? Any philosophy? Good one-liners? Something that you read that's really interesting. Something that you would like to share?
I think I kind of said it at the beginning, and that's to step outside your comfort zone. If you want to grow your practice, trying something that you've never tried before will likely give you a different result. So expand your bubble. We all live in this little bubble of comfort, and if we expand that bubble, then generally we can become extraordinary at what we're doing.
Yeah, I love it, and just be comfortable and happy in your own shoes too is another thing. Like, break through the bubble and just be whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing. Again, how do we get in touch with you? And like the website's probably the best channel here. So I'll bring it up here again just so that folks can see.
And then my email address, there's info@dentaldirectoracademy.com, or you can email me directly at stephanie@dentaldirectoracademy.com.
Beautiful. And I'll have that down in the show notes so that folks can see. Stephanie, thanks so much for your time. I'm looking forward to getting out there and seeing you in person. Have a great weekend.
It's been a pleasure, Mark. Thank you so much for having me. What an honor.
We'll do this again, I'm sure.
Can't wait.
Yeah.